You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
What a beautiful day for horses in the morning.
You are listening to the #1 horse podcast in the world. Here is your entertaining look at the horse world and the people in it.
Well, good morning, everybody. I am Glenn the Geek in Ocala, Florida.
And I am Allison Renborg in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and you are listening to the monthly Equine Affaire episode of Horses in the Morning on the Horse Radio Network for July 18th. This episode is brought to you by Equine Affaire. Good morning, Horse World.
It's the third Thursday of the month. That means it's time for the Equine Affaire episode, North America's premier equine expo and equestrian gathering.
That's right. It is the third Thursday, and we're very happy to have you here. Good morning, Allison. Thanks for stopping by and doing this again. What's going on over there at Equine Affaire?
Oh, we are all up in arms. So as of recording, tickets go on sale tomorrow. Yay. So July 10th. As of listening, they'll have been on sale for a little bit. We are frantically getting ready for that.
And that's for the November Equine Affaire in Massachusetts.
That's correct. It's November 7th through the 10th at the Eastern States Exposition in West Springfield. So it's the perfect time to get your Christmas shopping started.
Yeah, it's Christmas shopping palooza.
Yeah, or finished if you're one of the early birds. I am never the early bird. No, I'm usually shopping in December. Yeah. They're not weird. They're just
my mother-in-law. I come up with that because my mother-in-law would start asking us about April, what we wanted for Christmas. Like, I don't know.
I'm a different person by July. Yeah, exactly. What are you talking about?
That's 12 things are going to happen that will change my mind by the time Christmas rolls around.
Well, and shopping for adults is hard because if we want something, we usually can just buy it ourselves.
That's it. That's true. They've finally gotten smart and just do gift cards. But then it's kind of ridiculous because then we're just giving each other gift cards for the same amounts.
Yeah, and that's what's the point?
Does it make sense?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. But it is a good time to start or finish your Christmas shopping. Yes. Either way, whatever kind of person you are, if you're normal or weird. And it's always my favorite place to do a little Christmas shopping in between running around with like a chicken with my head cut off. So, but yeah, tickets are on sale now for Equine Affaire and also for Fantasia. And you Fantasia fans, if you want the really good seats, you got to start buying them now because they go really quickly. In the favorite seat sections, they go fast. So I would say get on that. And we have, well, this is a big announcement. Ask me about my announcement, Glenn.
Well, first, let's talk about what's coming up on today's show, and then I'll ask you about your announcement.
Okay. So coming up on today's show, we are talking all about gaited horses. So we're going to have Ivy Starnes, and she is our gaited horse clinician for this fall. She's wonderful. I really love the name of her website, her group. It's Ivy's Gaited Gliders or something incredible like that. And so she's going to come on the show and talk to us about gaited horses. Ivy's Glide Gait. And that just makes you immediately think smooth and gentle. Yeah. So we'll have Ivy, and then we're going to talk to the president of the Gaited Horses of New England group. And they usually demo with us in November. They've been doing that for years, and they'll be back again. And so her name is Loren Stevens. So we're going to learn about gaited horses up north in New England.
It's kind of ironic because my wife Jennifer is now looking for a gaited horse, for a trail horse down here in Florida, because 90% of trail riders down here have gaited horses. And the first horse I ever rode, Tar Baby, was a gaited horse, was a Tennessee Walker.
Tar Baby.
Yeah, Tar Baby was a Tennessee Walker, and probably my favorite horse I've ever ridden. I haven't ridden a ton, but just because he was so smooth and everybody else was bouncing around in their saddles, and I was just sitting there. Yeah. I loved it. I knew nothing about riding, and it didn't matter with Tar Baby.
And my first horse was a gaited horse, actually, and I was kind of torn about it because I'd only ridden non-gaited horses. And then for whatever reason, it just so happened my first pony was a walking horse pony. So I had to figure out, okay, I can't trot. So what are we doing? And he didn't really gait very well because he was mixed with something else. He was grade. But the name Tar Baby made me think So he was my first horse, and your listeners know that I grew up in a non-horsey family, so I had to teach my family everything about horses. And for whatever reason, my mother decided to give my horse a nickname.
Yeah.
And it was Horse Boy.
Just Horse Boy?
Just Horse Boy. So for the longest time, my horse was named Horse Boy until I finally convinced her, like, can we not? Can we not? You don't say dog boy. You don't say cat girl. Like, why Horse Boy?
That was her way of remembering whether it was male or female.
Right, exactly. So we ended up, eventually we ended up giving him a different nickname, but at least it wasn't Horse Boy, and that was Shaggy, which was it was much better. And it was very appropriate for him because he was pretty long-haired, even as a youngster. And then he got Cushing's eventually. I had him for 20 years. So Shaggy became even more Shaggy as the years went on. But Horse Boy. So my question for the listeners is, what's the most embarrassing nickname you have ever had for a pet?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah,
like weigh in. Can it beat Horse Boy? Is my question.
Horse Boy's pretty bad.
Because when I'm hanging out with my horsey friends and they're like, "What's your horse's name?" It's Horse Boy.
I've had some rather colorful names for some of Jennifer's horses over the years, but I can't say them on here.
Yeah,
So,
right,
yeah.
Right. Well,
That's from a horse husband's perspective, that is.
Right. Money eater, money grabber, those things.
Worse than that.
I know. I'm giving it a PG version.
All right, what's the big news?
Yeah, so the big news is that we now have an app. Not an Appaloosa, but a mobile app. And so we have partnered up with Western Edge, and they're this cool mobile app platform they've been selling tickets for Congress and a bunch of other Western events, but now they are going to be selling our tickets. So if you want to buy your tickets via app, you can go on the Google Play Store or the App Store and download Western Edge app. And then you can find the Equine Affaire portal. And the app is free. The account is free. Everything's free. You do have to buy your tickets, but to get to them is free. And then I would recommend, once you buy the tickets, keep that app on your phone, because we're going to start putting all kinds of info on there about the event. You'll be able to access the event map with the app. I was just going to say,
I hope the map's on there.
The map, the schedule, the clinicians, the exhibitors. We're even going to do some like fun extra things like scavenger hunts where you can win points and prizes. So definitely keep that app on your phone. And then they've also got some other cool features. They have a podcast feed with a bunch of different podcasts, but then they also have layovers. So like, if you're traveling and you need someplace to lay over with your horses, maybe check out the Western Edge app and see if there's anyone near you on that app. And they have a few other things on that app. It's pretty cool. I've been like playing with it. But yeah, so Western Edge, that's a new way to buy your tickets. Or if you still want to go the old-fashioned route, which I would do, you can go to equineaffaire.com and still buy them through our website, just like always, but it will route you through Western Edge to do so.
Very good. So just search for Western Edge on your app store.
Yep, that's right.
Both Apple and Android.
That's correct.
Okay,
yep.
Very good. Congratulations on that.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm excited. It's a little more work because now I have to come up with the scavenger hunt, but but it's going to be fun. I'm excited to see what we can do with it and play with it and, kind of promote some cool new stuff and be creative. So it's going to be good.
Very good. And then I think we made you mad a week or two ago. Jamie and I made you mad.
Yeah, you threw goats under the bus. Well, what's the matter with you?
Just not our favorite animals over here. Now, after we said that, because they get out and they destruct everything and all of that. And then we had the whole entire goat community come after us. So we heard it from a lot of people. Don't tell me you've had goats too, I bet, huh?
I had goats. So this goes back to Shaggy. All right. So when we bought Shaggy, he was my only horse, and we lived in the suburbs at the time. So we obviously had to find somewhere to keep him. And we found this like little pocket of undeveloped land in the middle of Hermitage, which is an outcrop of Nashville, basically. And so for $45 a month, we got a stall and a tack room and a little paddock. And then we had access to 100 acres.
Wow.
$45 a month.
You're not going to find out anymore.
No. And granted, this was in 99. No, 98. Wait, no, 99. Gosh, I'm old. This was in 99. And we were there for 3 or 4 years. Got to pay $45 a month. And then I think when I got a second horse, we had already moved, but I think we could add like a second horse for like nothing. It was ridiculous. And that place is gone now and has been developed into a suburb,
Sure.
of course.
Of course it has.
Of course it has. But anyway, so our horse was alone is my point. He was alone in a paddock and we could let him out into the pasture. But I think at that time there weren't any other horses on the property, or like they had just left or something like that. So he was all by himself. So my riding teacher said, "Hey, you should get a goat." And my parents went, "What?" And my riding teacher said, "Yeah, horses love goats. Goats love horses. It's perfect." So she went out, bought 2 goats at an auction, brought them back in her truck, said, "I'm going to give you the crazy one, the one that was beating its head against the truck bed the whole way home." I was like, "Okay." And I remember she hands me the leash of this little black pygmy goat. And I'm staring at the goat, and the goat is like turning cartwheels because she was not used to being on a leash. Okay. Like, I don't know what my riding teacher was thinking, but so she hands me this leash and I'm staring at this goat, like literally leaping up in the air and spinning circles. And my riding teacher goes, "Pretty cool, huh?" And I went, "Yeah." And then she said, "And guess what? She might be pregnant."
Of course. So did the goat get out all the time, eat everything, beat up your horse?
She did not beat up my horse. She did get out a lot.
See, so we were right. It all comes back to we were right.
She actually wasn't that bad. And her name was Salem because she was black and a little white speckled and looked a little witchy. But she did turn out to be pregnant. She had a little billy goat that I named Winston, who was my best friend. He was just like a dog, but he really was a pain in the butt. I will admit this. He jumped on cars. He ate roses.
See?
Yeah, he was a pain. But I want to tell you a funny story. So real quick, fast forward a couple of years, we very suddenly had to get out of that property. I think the owner had maybe passed away, and the heirs didn't want horses there anymore. And we had like a matter of a couple of weeks. Like it was like, oh my gosh, we got to find some place to put my horses and the goats. So we found a new farm, a new barn to put the horse, obviously. But the new barn didn't want goats because it was a country club.
Yeah, I could see why.
With a golf course. So they were like, "No, you can't bring your goats." So for a few weeks, we had our goats in our backyard in the suburbs of Nashville while we tried to find somebody who had a farm that had goats that we could turn our goats in with. And so Winston by then was a big, handsome boy and very friendly. He loved kids because he had grown up with me. And he got out of the backyard while we were gone one day. And we got a call from my neighbor the neighbor knew we had the goats. And fortunately, she was friendly, so she didn't report us immediately. And she called and said, "Hey, your goat got out, but it's okay. I got him." And she put him in her back seat and took him back home. And my mom said, "Well, where'd you find him?" And she said, "Well, he was with a group of kids just walking down the sidewalk."
We like kids.
So he got out and he found a group of kids who were walking to the elementary school in my neighborhood. And he just was like, "Well, they look familiar, so I'll go with them." So he almost went to school. But then my neighbor found him and got him in the car and brought him home. So that was, Winston wanted an education, but he didn't get it that day.
Did they end up with a home?
They did. And then years later, I think they were there for a few years, and then we bought our own farm and we brought them home.
Oh, so you got them back?
Yeah, we got them back. Of course, I wasn't going to give up my goats. Come on. They were my goats. They were my best friend. I also taught another one of my goats to, when I whistled, she would just start bleating like really loudly over and over again, this one specific note, like an alarm. So I had like an alarm goat.
Somebody come to the property just to set off the alarm goat?
Yes. So they were missing one day. Yeah, I know. I'm feeding into your whole goats are a pain in the butt thing.
Yeah,
they were missing
so far
one
I'm
day.
not convinced.
And I got on my horse and I went looking for them. And I started whistling just periodically, like surely Elf is going to answer me. And then eventually I heard this very faint, goat noise. And she just kept going all the way until I found her. So it was like having a clicker for your car.
All right. So far what we learned today is that we were right.
But they bring you lots of joy and laughter.
Okay,
So
all right.
What are a few dents in the hood and a few ruined rose bushes?
And a few hours of chasing them around the neighborhood.
Compared to the joy and laughter they bring you. Come on, Glenn, you got to get a goat. You should get some goats.
No,
Scooter would love goats.
That would be a nightmare. Scooter with goats. That'd be just a nightmare. All right, let's get on to gaited horses. What do you say? Who do we have up first?
On to gaited horses, we have Ivy Starnes. As I shared, she's a gaited horse clinician. Her whole goal in life and work is helping horses and riders have a relaxed, smooth ride. So she uses simple techniques. Something I want to ask her about is she uses slow motion video to help her riders understand the gaits.
That's cool.
by seeing the footfalls and the sounds. So I think that's super helpful, especially because, as we know, not all gaited horses have the same gaits. There's all different variations. So just because you're good at riding a walking horse doesn't mean you're going to be good at riding a Pasofino. So that's Ivy, and we are excited to welcome her to the show. Well, hi, Ivy. Welcome to our wonderful show this morning.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad that you could come on. We want to talk all about gaited horses. As Glenn shared in the intro, Jennifer is looking for a gaited horse. So kind of to start us off, why did you pick gaited horses? Why did you specialize in gaited horses as opposed to ungated?
That's a great question. And it's circumstances, the gaited horses kind of picked me really quickly. I got started with horses of any kind when I was 16. I got my license when I was 16, and I got a job with friends that had horses. And they had me start training their yearlings to, ground drive and be under saddle and all the things that a young horse needs to know. And come to find out that they raised and trained Rocky and Kentucky Mountain gaited horses. And that first year, the end of that summer, they started having me ride some of their good horses and teaching me what a good gait was. And I thought it was really interesting. And even though we owned some quarter horses, I just ended up sort of moving towards training more and more gaited horses.
So they really did kind of pick you. It just sort of
They did pick me,
way.
Yes. And then after a little while, I realized there was a need for more information out there. And even though I was still learning myself, I realized I knew more than other people, and I could share what I knew and help owners of gaited horses and their riders, and the horses and the riders.
Well, and it really is. So, we rotate through clinicians at Equine Affaire. We don't always have the same set of clinicians or the same disciplines covered, but any year that we don't have a gaited horse clinician, I hear about it on Facebook. People are like, oh no, there's no gaited horse, then I'm not coming. And it's just like, okay, well, we'll get one, and so I was really glad when Kogi said, yeah, we're having a gaited horse clinician back, because everybody wants one because they are so popular. And I guess my question for you is it really that different?
Great question. So I do want to say that it is that different. Okay. Part of the issue, I believe, is we don't need more gaited clinicians. We need more regular trainers to understand the value of understanding gaited horses so that they can help riders. Because we don't need more just gaited clinicians. We need trainers to recognize that gaited horses are not going away, that there's generations of riders who want a smooth ride and want help. And not only is there a revenue stream there, which should be, reason enough, but there's a lot of people that could really use help and are looking for people that are kind and compassionate and to help with them, to work with them. And gaited horses are hard. So they are a horse. You do treat them like a horse, like the basics apply to teaching them to be strong, teaching them to be relaxed. Those things are the same, but gaited horses are really hard. If you look at any of the non-gaited breeds, they walk, trot, canter, gallop. That's it. And different speeds within those gaits. But a gaited horse not only can walk, canter, gallop, but they can pace, stepping pace, saddle rack, running walk, flat walk, foxtrot, broken trot, and trot. And only a couple of those things are desired. And then you try to have someone who's new to riding or new to gaited understand how to help keep their gaited horse smooth. And it's a real struggle.
Okay, do that list again very fast like that. That was great.
Okay. Okay, so a gaited horse can, walk, canter, and gallop just like regular horses. But then any of the breeds have the possibility to do these gaits: pace, stepping pace, saddle rack, speed rack, running walk, flat walk, broken trot, foxtrot, trot. Along with that,
wait a minute, hold, stop. Allison, repeat those back in order.
Oh, what? You didn't warn me. Well,
so mean.
I was going to single footing, they're racking. There's those.
Yes,
I can add to the list. I just can't repeat them in order.
I couldn't either. I was concentrating and I couldn't repeat them.
Right.
Well, and then you add to those, like you said, the single foot and speed racking are the same thing with different names.
Right.
Same thing with the speed, a fast tolt and a slow tolt. A fast tolt is the same thing as a speed rack. A slow tolt is the same as a saddle rack. And then you have all the other terms that I've already named them, but they have multiple names for them. No wonder people are confused.
Leave it to horse people to confuse things with different names.
We can't agree on anything in this world.
Yes.
Yeah, so that would be hard. That would be hard because, like you said, with the whole single footing versus speed racking, you talk to one person, they call it this one thing. You talk to another person, they call it the other. And you think they're okay, they must be two different things. And then they'd start describing them and you go, oh, no, you're talking about the same thing. So what am I missing?
Yes.
Like,
well, and so many riders there's so much misinformation, just like you said. Someone calls it the same thing, but what they describe has multiple names.
Yes. And I mean, even new horse people have all kinds of obstacles to overcome, as we mentioned, and then they get into the gaited world and it's like, wow, what? I just wanted to ride my horse and have a good time.
And unfortunately, that's the only unfortunate thing. I love gaited horses, but it's simply untrue that they aren't complicated. They are complicated. You have to almost know more than the trail rider who rides a quarter horse or, an Arabian or whatever. They have it easier. The gaited horse owners need to have more education.
Definitely. And, gaited horses are popular not just for that smooth ride, but it seems like every gaited horse I've ever met, they have this reputation for being gentle and easy-tempered and kind. And I guess they need it because we're all a bunch of idiots, right?
So many of them have the best temperaments, but just like any horse, any breed, there are good and bad. There are those that fit that mold and those that don't, just like in every breed. But many of them are very kind and gentle. You usually have a very easy time starting them under saddle because if they've been raised right, they're just super willing and super even keel usually.
Yeah. So there are so many different breeds of gaited horse, like we've mentioned so many, but what's your personal favorite? Do you have a favorite gaited breed that you like to work with?
That's a good question. People ask me all the time what my favorite breed is. And I don't really have one. I love a well-trained gaited horse that gaits smoothly. And I have found that in all of the different breeds. I think two of the easiest breeds to get gait from would be the foxtrotters, Missouri foxtrotters, and the Rocky Mountain horses. Currently, I think those are some of the easiest ones to get gait from. But I've gotten beautiful gaits from all of the breeds, including spotted saddle horses and Tennessee walking horses and Kentucky Mountain and Icelandics. And a lot of them are also promoted as being calm and well gaited.
Yeah, definitely. You've probably I think you've already shared this, but what do you think the biggest misconception is that people have about gaited horses?
Yeah, I think the biggest misconception that people have with gaited horses is that they're easy, that they just gait.
Yeah.
I think that has done more harm than anything else. Like, what I generally teach all breeds of gaited horses to do is what I call a saddle rack. And then I really push for people to understand what a smooth, relaxed gait is, no matter what term you call it. So we start to judge based on what the horse's movement is doing, not by breed or what the correct name is, because one thing you have to remember is my clients and the people that are usually coming to me, they're not showing. So we don't have to do a show correct gait. We want a relaxed gait that's good for the horse and comfortable for the rider.
Yeah. And that should be the goal for, it doesn't matter what horse you're riding, right?
Yes.
Good for the horse, comfortable for the rider. That's what we need.
And so I come at the gaited horses from the perspective of, I don't want the horse just gaiting. I want the horse to be strong while they're gaiting, strong enough that they can carry a rider their whole life and not break down too quickly.
Yeah. So you said you like to teach all your students or people you work with the saddle rack.
Yes.
How do you define the saddle rack gait? What are you talking about there?
Yeah. So the saddle rack is a movement that can be as slow as 5 miles an hour on up to about 12 miles per hour. And it's an evenly timed 4-beat gait with no head nod. And if you were to hear that sound, like when you're riding, it sounds like pucka, 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 pucka.
Okay. So why no head nodding?
So there's only 3 gaits that have a head nod: the flat walk, the running walk, and the foxtrot. Mm-hmm. Now, these are not bad gaits. These are, if a horse is doing any of those 3, the flat walk, the running walk, or the foxtrot, biomechanically, it's fine. If the horse is, not putting their head up too high, it's good for them. But the foxtrot is not evenly timed. So the more evenly timed it is, the smoother it is. Mm-hmm. So a foxtrot is not evenly timed. Therefore, there is going to be some bounce. Not necessarily a hugely uncomfortable, but there'll be a bounce. And usually they can't go as fast while they're foxtrotting without it getting very bumpy. So the foxtrot's not my preferred gait, but there's nothing wrong with it. Then the flat walk and the running walk are more dependent on the horse's individual conformation and ability. So usually the flat walk and the running walk are defined. They usually go along with Tennessee walking horse and the spotted saddle horse, but not every spotted saddle horse or Tennessee walking horse can do the flat walk and running walk. The running walk is very difficult to teach if the horse doesn't have a natural talent, where the saddle rack is very smooth and comfortable for the rider, very good for the horse to do, and any horse can learn it quickly.
Well, that's cool. Sorry,
that was a long explanation.
No, it was great. I followed it. It was just like, I didn't think about, and this is probably going to make me sound silly, but I didn't think about teaching a gaited horse a particular gait. I thought you sort of had to go with whatever they were genetically gifted with. Since we know that gaiting is in the genes, they've discovered that there's a gene for that. I didn't think about that you could teach them that, although it makes perfect sense. We teach ungaited horses or non-gaited horses all kinds of different things. So that makes sense.
Yeah. And I just found that if you try to teach like a horse to do the foxtrot that doesn't have the really, really natural ability, it takes so much longer than teaching the saddle rack, which seems to be so much simpler for horses.
Right. So we talked a little bit about what you want to see in a gaited horse, like maybe what Jennifer should be looking for when she's looking for that gaited horse. But for the rider, what does the rider need to focus on if they want to, is it having a better seat? Is it having the ability to sit out those bumps? Like what as a rider do you need to do to prepare to ride a gaited horse differently than a non-gaited horse? Oh,
that is such a good question. There are, like you mentioned, should the rider work on their seat? Not necessarily. There is a misconception in the gaited world, as a general rule, that if you just ride the horse in a certain way and put your legs and your hands in a certain place, they will gait. Mm-hmm. That is completely false. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you think about it, of course it's false. Like that doesn't work.
Right.
But what you do need to be a safe rider. Many people that get into gaited horses are new riders. Obviously, Jennifer isn't, but a lot of them are. And I think if you're a new rider, it doesn't matter whether you're coming into gaited or quarter horses or any breed, you want to get lessons on how to ride well. So how to manage your reins well, how to let the reins go long and shorten them quickly so you can be safe. That's a big thing that I end up teaching. The other things that you want to work on if you're prepping to ride a gaited horse is to understand that you will never, of course, is not always true, but you will never find a gaited horse that's perfectly set in their gait. You will always have to either train the gait if they don't know it already, or it is up to the rider to maintain the smooth gait that they already have. And so when you're looking, you have to go into it with an understanding that this is not just like, oh, I get on my horse, we go for a ride, and I don't have to do anything. There will always be training involved if you want to maintain a smooth gait.
You know, that's true. The first pony I had was a racing pony, a pacer. And when I got that pony, obviously the pony, as you said, would trot or pace, and I would have to try and control which one happened, right? Pacing was fun in the cart, though. One, you went faster, and it was a lot smoother. We didn't bounce as much in the cart. Yeah. Yeah,
for the cart, for driving or in a cart, pacing on flat ground is very efficient.
Oh, I could keep up with the horses. That little pony could keep up with the horses that were cantering. At a pace.
Yeah. Yes, when they're pacing and they go really fast, and that's why the standardbreds, like if you are on flat ground and the Amish really like pacing standardbreds because of their ability to go. They don't do so well on hills. It's not the same.
That is true.
Then you want them to trot.
Yeah, the pony would go into a trot on a hill. Yep, that's right.
Yes, but the pace on the flat is great. But when you have a rider on, it's not so comfortable to ride.
Have you worked with a lot of standardbreds?
Actually, I have only worked with one.
Really?
I wish I could work with more. I mean, I owned a standardbred, but he only trotted. He was not gaited at all. And then last year at a clinic, I had a standardbred come, and she was lovely to work with. So that was really fun to get to work with my first standardbred.
They're such sweet horses. We see a lot of standardbreds at the Ohio Equine Affair. Obviously, we're down there in that country, and they're such sweet horses, and they're so easy to work with. They'll just do whatever you want, and they're so versatile. But that's cool that you finally got to work with one.
Yeah, I hope to work with more. I think a lot of people don't realize that they have the potential to gait. And so it's more likely half of the horses I work with are often Tennessee walking horses. And so I do see more of the regular breeds rather than the saddlebreds and the standardbreds and things like that. I have ridden gaited Arabian. So those do exist, but they're very rare. And there are gaited quarter horses out there, but again, very rare.
So one other question here before we let you go, and it might be a dumb question, but are there unique lamenesses to gaited horses that you don't see a lot in non-gaited?
So unique lamenesses, the only thing that comes to mind is that DSLD, degenerative suspensory ligamentary dysmitis, is common in like Pasafinos, some Tennessee walking horses, but it's also common in some draft horses. So that would be the only thing I can think of as far as being specific to gaited, because they suffer from all of the same things that
other horses
can, navicular and, they can founder and all of these things. So I can't think of anything specific. It's more that vets have a hard time distinguishing between what is a gaited movement versus, a trotting horse versus lameness, which is another thing. Just so you know, one day my goal is to produce a training DVD or video class for vets to understand what the correct and incorrect gaits are to help them better correctly define or identify lameness in gaited horses.
I didn't think about that, but it is so different that I can see why that would be a necessity.
I definitely, my first horse was Gaited, and I had only had experience with trotting horses before I got him. And so I was constantly trying to figure out, okay, is he lame or is it just his usual head nod? Like, what's going on?
Yes, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard. Their bodies move. Like, if you think about all the visual signals that we're taught in trotting horses to look for a lameness or look and see which foot is off. And then you look at a gaited horse move, their back moves different, their shoulders move different, their hips move different. It's just like, it's almost like a whole different animal.
Yeah, I posted
train that.
Yeah, I posted a video. It was like an international gaited or international horse group, and it was a video of a horse gaiting, and I didn't realize so many people that were from other countries asked if that horse was lame. Most of the people in the U.S. didn't because they're more familiar with gaited. But if people aren't familiar, they see that movement and immediately think the horse might be lame.
Yeah. It's funny, and that's just it's part of learning. We all have new things to learn all the time.
Yes.
So where are you based?
I'm in Fort Worth, Texas.
Okay, so you're going to travel a long way to come up and see us in Mass.
Yes, yeah, we will be flying up. Awesome. But I do also have, I don't know, I can't remember when this is going to air, but I do have a clinic in New Hampshire and New York coming up in the end of August.
Oh, perfect. So this will air, it's July 18th, so that's perfect. Okay, so how can people learn more about your clinics in New York and New Hampshire and learn more about you?
Yeah, they can go to my website, which is ivyshorses.com. And if you Google Ivy and horses, I'm the one that comes up. So it's very easy if you can remember that. And you can also find me. Yeah, and you can also find me on Facebook at Ivy's Glide Gait.
Perfect. And then you'll also, if you're up in New England or you want to come to New England, you will get to meet Ivy and learn from her in person at Equine Affaire in Massachusetts. So please,
I was going to say, definitely stop by the booth. I love talking to people.
Yay. Well, thank you so much, Ivy. This has been just an awesome conversation. I had a lot of fun.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Glenn.
Well, if you haven't heard the news, here's a personal announcement just for you. Tickets for Equine Affaire in Massachusetts and Fantasia are on sale now. Get yours today by visiting equineaffaire.com or by downloading the free Western Edge app that we talked about earlier. All tickets are digital, which means you'll get them in your email and can save them on your mobile device for easy access to the show. Get your tickets today. Equine Affaire will be at the Eastern States Exposition in West Springfield, Massachusetts on November 7th through the 10th this year.
Our next guest is Loren Stevens. As the president of Gaited Horses of New England for 3 years and the vice president for the 11 years before that, Loren has accumulated experience and knowledge in the field, some of it through the School of Hard Knocks, which sounds familiar. She has owned 7 walking horses and currently owns 3 of them. She also has been a popular site at Equine Affaire in the past. She has participated in numerous breed demos, and we are excited to have her on the show to share all about the Gaited Horses of New England. Well, hi, Loren. Welcome to our show.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
We are excited to have you. This is all about gaited horses today. That's all we've talked about. We just had a wonderful conversation with Ivy Starnes, who's going to be our gaited horse clinician in Massachusetts. And I just thought, hey, this is perfect. We'll talk to Ivy. We'll talk to Loren. We'll just do a gaited horse spectacular. So you are the president of Gaited Horses of New England, right?
I am, and it's a great organization. We have about 60 active members that come to our shows and our clinics, and we have about 1,300 Facebook followers, which is great.
Yeah, and so are your members just all over New England, or where are you based in particular?
So I live in southern New Hampshire, and our members come from all of the New England states, but a lot of our activities are sort of centralized in Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Hampshire, and southern Maine. And so we haven't picked up that many members from like Vermont. And we do have a member from New Jersey who comes up for Equine Affaire and some other events.
Oh, that's cool. And the good thing about New England is you guys are all close together, so it's easier, I imagine, to get places because you guys are all so close together. So that's really helpful. And so,
yeah.
What do you guys do mainly? What's your purpose? What's your mission behind Gaited Horses of New England?
So our mission is to promote all of the gaited horses and all of their breeds. We used to be a club called Yankee Walkers because we started with Tennessee Walkers, but that didn't really reflect the diversity of the breeds that were in our club. So we changed the name when I became president to Gaited Horses of New England because we have Tennessee Walkers, Spotted Saddle horses, Missouri Foxtrotting horses, Kentucky Mountain and Rocky Mountain horses, Icelandics, and Pasafinos. That's a wide variety of horses, but the gaited horse is not as prevalent in New England as it is obviously in the South. And
Right.
So we have, 5 to 10 members that have one breed, 5 to 10 members that have the other. And so we decided to change our name and be inclusive of all of those breeds.
Well, I think that was a great move because as we learned from Ivy, and as you just said, there are so many different breeds of gaited horses. Like I'm in Tennessee, so I see a whole lot of Tennessee walking horses, of course, but we have all different kinds and they're all over the US. They're getting more and more popular, I feel like.
I think that's true. Our demographic for our members is people who are 45 years old and up into their 80s. And the beautiful thing about a gaited horse is there's no suspension. It's smooth footfalls, 4-beat gait. And so older people that have back issues or hip issues or knee issues can ride a gaited horse for decades past when you can do it with a high trotting horse. So we're seeing a population who are retiring or who they've raised their children and now they're interested in gaited horses as recreation and they're buying their first gaited horse and they might be 50 years old. And they're hoping this horse will take them all up into retirement. And so we're seeing a boom in the industry, which is great.
Well, and that's such a great demographic because I run all the socials for Equine Affaire, and I can't tell you how often I get comments or posts or questions about, can you have more clinics directed for the older equestrian? The person who their kids are growing up and they're coming back into horses and they need those refreshers, or maybe it's new for them. And so I think having a horse or a group to point them to as well and say, hey, maybe try the smoother gaited horse. It might be easier on your hips, your knees, your ankles. Heck, I'm 36 and I've got, knees and ankles and hip problems. So like the idea of riding a smoother ride, one that I could ride all day, for example, because some gaited horses can just go all day with that lovely smooth gait. It's really appealing. So I can see why that would be.
Yes. For the most part, too, the gaited breeds have an easygoing temperament and are people-oriented. Now, buyer beware, there are hot horses out there, and the younger horses are obviously going to be hotter than, 12, 14, 15-year-old horse. But on the most part, compared to some other breeds, they're mellow, easygoing, and make good family pets, which is what our club members are looking for.
Absolutely. And so how did you get into, you have walking horses. So how did you come to meet walking horses and get involved with those?
I think I have a typical story of someone who is in our club. I rode as a kid. My aunt had Tennessee walking horses in upstate New York, and she let me ride them. They were trail horses. They were calm. They were lovely, lovely backyard pets. And I always loved the breed. And I grew up in Boston, and my mother felt bad for me that I didn't live in the country and couldn't have a horse. So she would take me to horseback riding lessons every Saturday. And I rode hunt seat for a while. And then in high school, I switched to 5-gaited saddlebreds, and then went off to college, got married, had my 4 beautiful children. And when my husband and I bought a farm in New Hampshire, I was in my late 30s, and I was like, I've always wanted to have horses. It's now or never. And I remember going to Equine Affaire with my mother when I was in my late 30s and going, I don't know what breed I want. I love the gaits on a saddlebred, but I want to be able to show it one day and trail ride it the next. And so I went to Equine Affaire and I looked at all the breeds and I watched all the breed demos and I talked to all the people who had gaited horses. And I met my vice president at that time, whose name is Julie Dillon. She had the most beautiful walking horse. And then I was also always been crushing on walking horses since I was a little girl and my aunt had them. And I jumped into walking horses at that time and bought my first walking horse. Then it was it was a long road of relearning what I had forgotten I knew from being a teenager and then adjusting it to the gaited horse.
You just described about 40% of our audience are women coming back in after the kids.
Definitely. And my kids at that time were like my daughter. We bought a horse for my daughter, a walking horse, and she and I showed together when she was a little girl and a teenager. I still have her horse. Her horse is 23 years old. Sweet thing. And the horse's name is Brooke. And this winter, my 94-year-old mother got on and rode Brooke around the arena, just as a testimony of how great these horses are. I had my nieces on either side to make sure she wouldn't fall off.
Right.
But that's my mother's balance, not the stable horse that took such good care of her. Yeah. So they're great. They're great pets and great horses.
They really are. And I mean, what a cool, do you have photos of your mother on that horse?
I do. I posted the video on Facebook right around Christmas because she was visiting me. And you'll see a short clip if you go on Gaited Horses of New England's Facebook page, if you roll back to Christmas time.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. See, it's stories like that. I mean, that is cool. And I bet that made her day.
Oh, she's still talking about it. Yes, pretty much. I call her pretty much. She lives in Tennessee. She lives down right outside of Nashville, and I call her every day. And a week does not go by where she doesn't ask me about Brooke the horse and how she's doing and what a sweet horse she is. And
that's so wonderful. So, and whereabouts in Tennessee? Because I'm in Murfreesboro, so I'm not that far from Nashville.
Yeah, she lives in Brentwood, as does my brother. And I fly down about every 2 months to visit her and try to take some lessons with the great clinicians that are down there. Our club just had Scott McGregor, who's a flat-shod trainer and multiple time world grand champion. I try to pick up a lesson with him. And Gary Lane lives in Kentucky. I try to pick up a lesson with him when I'm down there because this is the central part for walking horses. That's where the trainers all are.
That's where they're all here.
Yeah.
That's what I grew up, every horse I saw was a walking horse. That's awesome. I love that connection that you have to Tennessee. So you can get the latest word, so to speak. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what your club is going to do in Massachusetts this fall. Do you guys have plans already?
Yes, we have a booth. Besides educating these older people who are coming back to horses, maybe they've bought their first walking horse or their first Icelandic or mountain horse. So we really concentrate as a club on education. We try to have at least 3 or 4 clinics during the spring, summer, and fall where people can come and learn from people like Ivy. Ivy will be here in New Hampshire in August. And Scott McGregor was here in July. We had Julie Dillon, who's a certified riding instructor and our vice president, here in May. And we're having Carl Bledsoe, who was last year's clinician at Equine Affaire, in September. So that these people are coming back new to gaited horses, renewing their horsemanship skills, have a place to go and learn. And the clinicians can help them make sure their saddle fit is right. Gaited horses are usually much wider than a trotting horse, and sometimes people new to gaited horses don't know that, and their saddle's not fitting properly. Gaited horses usually have a shorter back, and you have to make sure that the saddle is not banging into their hips so they can slide properly. Bitting is important in shoeing. Oftentimes gaited horses have a little bit longer foot. And then just the horsemanship and how to get the horse to round and not hollow out so that they're gaiting instead of hard pacing. I mean, all of those skills, these clinicians do a wonderful job at helping each individual and their horse become a united team working together. And so we will be at Equine Affaire with a booth where we will have snacks and we'll have drinks and a place for people to sit down and rest from shopping and from going to all of the wonderful clinics that you have at Equine Affaire. And we will support Ivy and her team setting up, breaking down. If she needs a break from her booth. We have a club dinner every year and invite the Gaited clinician to come and just meet our club members, and they can ask their individual questions and learn more and just get to know the clinician that's at Equine Affaire. And so it's one of our big events of the year. And it's also, of course, a membership drive for us as well.
Absolutely. I love that. And I love just kind of rewinding a little bit how you mentioned the shoeing, the tack, the bidding. Everything is so different about gaited horses, and Ivy and we talked about that a little bit, but it really is, they're horses, yes, but they're so different from the non-gaited horse. So I love that you brought all that up because that's important. And so, yeah, how can people learn more about your group besides coming to Equine Affaire, which hopefully our listeners will, but how can they find you all online?
So our club colors are red, white, and blue. So when they walk into our area, you'll see our banners up. And if they go to Gaited Horses NE, standing for New England.org, we have a website for them. And same thing if they go on Facebook, it's a public page. It's Gaited Horses of New England, and they can find us there as well. And we are all about the fellowship and building the community and helping new learners come along with their horse and their horsemanship. And it's a great bunch of people. We enjoy trail riding together. We do some camping. Mostly we do our camping with another organization called Cross State, but there are a ton of gaited horses involved with Cross State. And just helping people come along with what they need to know. And judgment-free zone, I was there, 20 years ago. Almost everyone in the club can say, yep, I've been there, I've made that mistake, or I had to learn that. And it's just a supportive group of people.
Well, and I love that you've come full circle too. So you went to Equine Affaire 20 years ago. You met a gaited horse person. You bought your first gaited horse, and now you're back at Equine Affaire, and you're being that person who can share about gaited horses to the person who was in your shoes 20 years ago. I think that's what makes Equine Affaire so cool, is people like you. So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely. I never miss it. All these 20 years, I just keep coming back. I always learn incredible things at Equine Affaire, from the gaited clinicians and from the dressage instructors and from the veterinarians. It's just such a great event.
Well, there are a variety of ways that listeners can get involved in Equine Affaire, not just showing up, but doing other stuff too. If you want to ride in a clinic, compete in a class, volunteer in exchange for free admission, you can exhibit, and so much more. Sign-ups for competitions, clinics, and volunteering are coming soon. Visit the website at equineaffaire.com for details, or reach out to info@equineaffaire.com for more details. Don't forget that we'll be back tomorrow with another episode of Horses in the Morning, and you can find the Equine Affaire show on its own special feed. We forget to mention, go to Equine Affaire Podcast on your podcast player. Just search for that, and it'll bring you just the Equine Affaire episodes if you don't want to listen to all those other crappy ones I do on Horses in the Morning, or you can go listen to the crappy ones too. It's up to you. But you can do that. We forget to mention that sometimes, that you do have your own feed.
And if you do go to that feed, please subscribe and please leave us a review. That would be super helpful for me. I would just love if we could see some reviews. Yay. Please.
Good.
Yay.
That's terrific. Well, thank you again for another terrific episode.
Yeah, this was really fun. It turned out well, and it's great timing for Jennifer. So hopefully she'll learn something from us.
Hopefully.
You can learn more about Equine Affaire at our website, equineaffaire.com, by following us on Facebook at Equine Affaire, or Instagram or TikTok, or you can go to our YouTube channel. We'll see you at Equine Affaire.